Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. As we wrap up 2024, we're taking a deep dive into this crazy world of cryptocurrency, trying to figure out what's going on.
Definitely a lot to unpack.
A lot to unpack, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin is tanking, and everyone's blaming it on this U.S. Treasury hack. But here's the thing. The hack happened weeks ago, back on December 8th.
Right.
So why is Bitcoin suddenly plummeting now, and what's up with Tether? That whole stablecoin situation.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces right now.
A lot of moving pieces. So let's unravel it all.
Let's get into it,
Let's deep dive into it. First, let's just break down this hack, okay?
Yeah.
Like, what actually went down at the U.S. Treasury?
So from what we're seeing from cybersecurity reports and, the official statements that have come out, it looks like Chinese state-sponsored hackers, they got into employee workstations at the Treasury.
Oh.
They were able to view, looks like classified documents, and they exploited some security keys from a third-party cybersecurity provider, a company called BeyondTrust.
Okay. So for weeks, these hackers are poking around in sensitive U.S. Treasury systems, potentially looking at classified documents. And no one had a clue.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at right now. It's a pretty big deal. The government's calling it a major cybersecurity incident.
I bet.
They've taken the compromised services offline. They're doing a full investigation with the FBI, CISA.
Wow. So some people are saying this whole hack is what's tanking Bitcoin, right?
Right.
But I gotta be honest, that connection seems a little, I don't know.
Shaky?
Yeah, shaky. A little weak.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, it's decentralized, right? Supposed to be separate from all this government stuff. Wouldn't that actually make it, safer in situations like this?
Well, you're right. The Bitcoin network, the network itself is decentralized. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But the exchanges, the wallets, where people actually buy, sell, store their Bitcoin, a lot of those are centralized.
Oh, okay.
So they're vulnerable, vulnerable to attacks, regulations, just market sentiment in general.
So even if Bitcoin itself is secure, those like on-ramps, off-ramps could get compromised.
Yeah.
And then that impacts the price.
Exactly. And here's the thing. We don't even know what these hackers actually accessed or if they, copied anything. What if they got their hands on like super secret economic data?
Oh, man.
And then they leaked it or manipulated it.
That's scary.
That would definitely rock the markets, crypto included.
Yeah, for sure. Makes you think,
Yeah.
Like everything's so connected these days. It's wild. And then there's this other thing, this timing, right? Why are we just hearing about this hack now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wouldn't this have caused total chaos if it came out, right before Christmas?
That's the big question, yeah.
It's weird.
A lot of cybersecurity folks are asking the same thing. It's possible maybe the government was trying to, contain the breach,
Right.
assess the damage before going public. Or who knows? Maybe it was, a political thing with the new administration coming in. Whatever the reason, this whole delay, it just adds to the uncertainty.
Yeah, totally.
And the speculation.
Well, speaking of uncertainty and maybe a little speculation, let's talk Tether.
Oh, yeah.
So they just added $700 million to their Bitcoin reserves.
That sounds good, right? On the surface, yeah, it could be seen as a sign of strength. Stability. They're saying USDT, their stablecoin, it's backed 1.1 by reserves, right? Including Bitcoin. So boosting those reserves, maybe it builds some confidence.
But then they're doing things that totally clash with that whole stability image.
Yeah.
They're refusing to play ball with those European regulations, the MiCA thing.
Right.
Getting delisted from certain exchanges because of it.
And then there's the Argentina situation.
Oh, yeah.
Authorities there told Tether to freeze $3.5 million in USDT, linked to some alleged pyramid scheme.
Shady.
It raises questions, right, about Tether's whole decentralization claim.
Yeah. On one hand, they're adding to their Bitcoin reserves. But on the other, they're acting like, a central authority, freezing accounts, refusing to comply with regulations. It's like they want to have it both ways.
It's a tough spot for them. They're trying to maintain that image of a decentralized stablecoin, but they've also got regulators, authorities breathing down their necks.
Yeah, right.
They're being told to, act responsibly. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, what they decide to do.
It's like this tangled mess, isn't it? Global finance, cyber espionage, and then trying to define what this whole crypto world even is.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Makes my head spin.
We're just getting started.
It's crazy to see how this U.S. Treasury hack is feeding into this whole narrative of Bitcoin as this safe haven asset.
Yeah.
Some people saying, these events, they shake confidence in the traditional systems, and it'll push people toward Bitcoin. What do you think about that?
Well, it's an idea that's been, floating around for a while in the crypto space, this theory that when governments and big financial institutions start looking shaky, people will run. Nope. Definitely more nuanced than that. And if you look at how Bitcoin performed during other times of, like, global craziness,
Oh, hey.
it's even more complicated. The beginning of the COVID pandemic, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
Markets were crashing everywhere, and initially Bitcoin tanked too,
What you say?
along with everything else. It was only later that it recovered and, ended up even higher than before the pandemic.
So this whole Bitcoin is a guaranteed safe haven idea, maybe a little oversimplified.
I'd say so, yeah. It's a possibility, but not a guarantee. More accurate to say that Bitcoin has the potential to be a safe haven, but it really just depends on a bunch of different things happening at once.
Right, right. This makes me think about how we're still figuring out what Bitcoin even is in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
Like it's a role in the future of finance. It's such an evolving story, always changing.
totally. And that's what makes it so interesting. We're watching a whole new financial system being born right in front of us. Speaking of paradigm shifts, though, there are some other big crypto things happening. Even with, all this U.S. Treasury hack stuff and Tether's moves.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to talk about those. What else have you got your eye on?
Well, Russia has been increasingly looking into using Bitcoin for international trade as a way to get around those Western sanctions they've been hit with.
Wow. That's a huge deal, isn't it? Like, whole countries are starting to see Bitcoin as a legit tool for, global finance, especially when the traditional systems aren't an option anymore.
Exactly. And it raises questions about, like, global power dynamics in the future. If countries can just use Bitcoin to sidestep sanctions and access international markets outside the usual SWIFT system, it could completely change the geopolitical game.
It's like financial warfare, but with crypto.
Yeah.
Kind of a scary thought.
Yeah. It is. It's a reminder that technology, it's not neutral, can be used for good or bad. Depends on who's using it and what their intentions are.
Very true. Now, on a more positive note, there's been some interesting news coming out of the Middle East about, like, crypto and Islamic finance.
You're talking about crypto.com and that Dubai Islamic Bank partnership, right?
Yeah. They're trying to figure out how to make Sharia-compliant crypto solutions.
Yeah.
It caught my attention because, at first glance, those two worlds seem so different. Crypto is all about, like, decentralization, anonymity, this kind of, like, Wild West thing.
Yeah.
And Islamic finance, it's all about these specific ethical, religious principles. How do they even, like, start to bring those two things together?
Well, it's all about finding common ground and, adapting the technology so it works for that specific market. In this case, one of the things they're looking at is something called tokenized Islamic sukuk.
Okay. Remind me what sukuk are again?
So sukuks are like Islamic financial certificates, similar to bonds, like in the Western world. But there's a key difference. Okay.
Instead of paying interest, which is a no-go under Islamic law,
right,
they give investors a share of whatever the underlying asset is.
So they're basically taking these sukuk, which are already kind of unique, and then making them even more accessible and maybe more efficient by putting them on the blockchain. Pretty cool. But I'm a little fuzzy on the tech side. What does it actually mean to tokenize a sukuk?
Okay, so imagine you have a real-world asset, like a piece of real estate. Tokenization is basically creating a digital version of that asset on a blockchain. So with sukuk, instead of having this paper certificate that represents your investment, you'd have a digital token that's stored and managed on a blockchain.
And because blockchain transactions are, like, public and transparent, that could make these Islamic financial things more trustworthy, less likely to have fraud or, shady stuff happening.
Exactly. And it also opens up this possibility of, like, fractional ownership.
Oh, interesting.
You could invest in a little piece of a sukuk, makes these investments available to way more people. This crypto.com and Dubai Islamic Bank thing, it's almost like building a bridge, right?
Yeah.
Between the old school financial world and the crypto world. It just shows how adaptable blockchain technology can be.
It really does. Crypto isn't just about, making a quick buck and crazy price swings. It can be a tool for real financial inclusion and innovation across different cultures, different belief systems.
It's pretty amazing. So we've covered a lot today, haven't we? U.S. Treasury hacks, Tether doing its thing, Russia using Bitcoin to dodge sanctions, and now Islamic finance getting into the crypto game. It seems like everyone is trying to figure out what to do with this whole crypto thing, how to respond.
Yeah, it's a total game changer. We're seeing the birth of a brand new financial system, and the rules are still being written. It's exciting, it's a little scary, and there's so much we don't know yet.
And speaking of not knowing, let's go back to that U.S. Treasury hack for a second and think about something, maybe a little unsettling. What if the consequences of this breach go way beyond just, like, the financial markets? What if the data they stole ends up on the blockchain itself? It's kind of freaky to think about, right? That this data just out there permanently, no way to erase it.
Yeah, that immutability, it's a double-edged sword, that's for sure. It's great for, transparency and security in a lot of ways, but when it comes to something like this,
Yeah.
potentially disastrous.
It's like the ultimate data breach nightmare. Not only is your info stolen, but it's also blasted out to the whole world forever.
Right, and it changes everything about how we approach data security. I mean, usually you try to contain a breach, right?
Yeah.
Minimize the damage. But blockchain, that's a whole different ballgame.
So how do we even deal with that? Like, blockchain's got all this potential, but then you've got these massive risks too, especially for, privacy, security.
It's the million-dollar question, really. The whole industry is grappling with it. There are people working on some really cool solutions, though, like privacy-enhancing technologies for blockchains, ways to maybe recover data in certain situations, and even new regulations that could help. But yeah, it's definitely a work in progress.
Feels like we're just scratching the surface, understanding what this tech really means, the good and the bad.
For sure. We're at this crazy point in history, watching a technology being born that could literally change everything. And that means we've got to be careful, think things through, and make sure we're using it for the right reasons.
Well, as we wrap up this New Year's Eve deep dive into crypto land, it kind of feels like we're ending on a cliffhanger, So many unanswered questions. This Treasury hack, the timing of it all, tethers, interesting moves. And then the big one. How are governments, institutions going to handle this whole decentralized wave?
You said it. It's unpredictable. Things are changing constantly.
That's what keeps it exciting, though, right?
Absolutely.
Keeps us on our toes. Makes us question what we think we know. So to everyone listening, as we ring in the new year, remember, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those tough questions. The future of crypto, it's still being written. And who knows? Maybe you'll be a part of shaping it.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.